Yeah, welcome everyone for the third time. Great to see so many of you here. Yeah, welcome to our webinar, Data Sovereignty in the Age of AI. Just a quick housekeeping note before we get started. You're all muted by default, so if you want to jump in with a question or comment, please use the chat and we'll have a Q&A in the end. Today, we are going to talk about data sovereignty, what it actually means in practice when you're building AI and data solutions, and how you can maintain real control over your data. And we're going to back up with a live demo showing you that modern enterprise-grade data usage doesn't have to depend on the big hyperscalers. There are powerful alternatives, and we will prove it. I'm here with Dirk Beerbaum from Exasol and Carsten Schweiger from Datavault Builder. And my name is Till Sander. I'm CTO of the Areto Group. So just for you to get active in the beginning, we prepared a small poll, which should be showing up in a second. And please just use it for some seconds, and then we'll see what the result is, and then we start with the webinar.
In the meantime, we had one question that sound is not good. There was a loopback. Is it good now? Can everybody hear us? If not, please just use the Q&A section to give us a hint.
Yeah.
The chat is disabled. That was another question here, but the Q&A works for all participants. So actually, I don't see the result, but
no, not yet.
Hopefully everybody sees the question. The question is, where does your company stand in using AI for data management? Would be interesting to see the result. I think the participants should see it as well. Okay, some audio problems still from the same person. So if somebody else experienced problems with the audio, please let us know. Otherwise, I'm sorry, and it's only for one person the problem. I hear Till very good. So
Yeah,
hopefully it's not for everybody bad.
no problems at all. Now we see the result. So, okay, yeah, a little bit as expected. So it's a very homogeneous result. Nearly, yeah, so everything nearly the same, around 20% from still evaluating to already strategically integrated, and some still have no concrete plans yet. So, okay, so we have a good mixture here, and I hope we can help you yeah, with your future AI plans here. Okay, so before we get into substance, let me take 30 seconds to introduce who we are at Areto. Areto Group was founded in 2007. We've been working in data and analytics for nearly 2 decades. And today, we are a team of roughly 180 people across 6 locations in Germany and Portugal, helping our customers to make better decisions based on their data. Our mission is to be the one-stop shop for AI, decision intelligence, analytics, and data strategy. Our partner SAP more is what you see in action during today's demo. So let me start with something that puts today's topic into perspective. Throughout history, there have been 3 great waves of exponential change, each one triggered by what economics call a general purpose technology. The printing press unlocked the era of knowledge. Steam power unleashed the era of value creation. And now artificial intelligence, driven by computing power and global connectivity, is opening the era of intelligence itself. Each of these transitions made existing structures obsolete. Industries, business models, entire ways of organizing society had to reinvent themselves. And critically, those who recognized the shift early and acted accordingly ended up leading the next era. Those who didn't were swept aside. We are at that inflection point right now. So the question is for every organization is, and it's not whether AI will change your business, because it will. The question is whether you will control the transformation or whether it will happen to you. And that's precisely what data sovereignty matters, because whoever controls data in the age of an AI controls the intelligence and ultimately the decisions. So what exactly do we mean by data sovereignty? At its core, sovereignty means one thing: self-determination. The ability applied to data, it means having full control over your data, who stores it, who processes it, who it's shared with, and on what terms. This plays out across 3 dimensions. First, technical sovereignty. Do you actually control your infrastructure, your architecture, and the algorithms running on your data? Second, legally sovereignty. Are you operating within a compliant framework, and are you protected from external jurisdictions? And third, and this is the one most organizations underestimate, operational sovereignty. Can you change vendors if you need to? Can you make decisions without being held hostage by lock-in? Now, one critical clarification. Data sovereignty is not data isolation. We are not suggesting you to build walls around your data or stop sharing it. Quite the opposite. Sovereignty means you get to choose when you share, with whom, and how, on your terms. And that distinction matters because sovereign architecture decisions are not technical details. They are strategic choices that belong in the boardroom, not just the IT department. Now let's look at why this is
Until your audio is
no
gone.
longer optional because nation sovereignty illegal. We have 3 key. Oops, I still can hear something.
Sorry, the audio was away for a moment, and we got another chat that the audio was not good, but it was gone for a moment on my side as well. But
Okay.
please try
But
to.
now it's
Sorry.
yeah. Okay. Good. So so we have 3 key frameworks to watch, starting with GDPR, enforced since 2018, privacy by design, the prohibition on transferring personal data to countries without adequate protection, and critically, the requirements that organizations can actually demonstrate where their personal data sits. Technical control is now a compliance obligation, not a nice to have. Then there's the EU AI Act rolling out from 2025 to 2026. It introduces a risk-based framework. High-risk AI systems must be transparent, explainable, and subject to human oversight. You must document your training data, your models, your decision logic. And here's the point that catches many organizations off guard. If you don't control your data, you simply cannot fulfill these obligations. As data sovereignty at its foundation for a sovereign European data economy, giving organizations the right to switch cloud providers without data loss and creating new rights against platform operators. The takeaway: regulation is forcing technical decisions. Organizations that invest into sovereign architectures today will find compliance comes naturally tomorrow. Those that don't will be scrambling to retrofit it later. I still get the message that my internet is not stable, but I hope it's still working. So So what does it look like in practice? At Areto, we approach data sovereignty on 3 levels simultaneously. Technically, the toolkit includes private cloud and on-premise AI deployments, open source models like Llama and Mistral that run on your own infrastructure, federated learning, end-to-end encryption, data residency guarantees, and confidential computing. In practice, this means deploying internal language models on your own tenant with GDPR-compliant data hosting in Germany or Europe, enabling retrieval augmented generation on your own documents, deep integration into core business processes, and full cost control. Organizationally, it means putting the right governance structure in place. An AI governance framework, data classification policies, AI usage guidelines, and shadow AI monitoring. The last one is important because if you don't know which of your employees are using AI tools with company data right now, you already have a sovereignty problem. And regulatorily, every AI tool deployment should be preceded by a data protection impact assessment, mapping what happens to the data, why it's necessary, what risks exist, and what technically and organizational measures you're putting in place. This 3-layer approach, technical, organizational, and regulatory, is what we call sovereignty by design. The challenge has always been, how do you get the performance and scalability of modern cloud infrastructure without sacrificing control, compliance, and European data sovereignty? The answer is a 3-layer architecture that delivers full control without any dependency on US legislation. The foundation is a data center like Stackit, a purely European hyperscaler, not a European data center of a US hyperscaler, genuinely a European cloud provider, governed exclusively by EU law, certified to BSI C5 standards, and no cloud at risk. On top of that runs Exasol, a high-performance analytical database and query engine, purpose-built for lightning-fast analysis and secure AI workloads. It runs on the sovereign infrastructure, giving you enterprise-grade analytics performance without compromising on data residency. And the 3rd layer that brings it all together, the Datavault Builder, automating data vault modeling and accelerating data processing while full ownership of the data model stays entirely in your organization. Analytics plus the sovereignty guarantees that GDPR, EU AI Act, and your own governance requirements demand. So that's what sovereign architecture looks like, not a theoretically concept, but a running production system. And now I'd like to hand over to Dirk, who will go into more detail. I think I need to stop sharing.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. So I want to share first my my presentation stuff here. So I need to change later on. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, perhaps you can go in presentation. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay, wonderful. So as Till mentioned, we are one of the infrastructural technical bases for this approach. Exasol is probably the fastest analytical database you can get in the market. And there are manifold reasons why we are so fast. First of all, we are considered to be an in-memory database. However, only about 10% of the real data is being kept in the main memory, and we are in a constant exchange. So it's not that like that you have to have everything into main memory, especially if you're driving high data loads, like we can go up to the really, really high 3-digit terabytes of raw data. Secondly, we are optimized around data storage on a vector-based data storage in column, which is giving us really, really superior reading speeds. Yeah. And thirdly, we are a so-called massive parallel database and MPP architecture. So with your growing demands, either by use cases, by additional users, or concurrent users. And by additional data, we can scale up easily by adding more and more nodes. A really important point here is what happens if your view onto the data is going to change. Yeah, you're looking at it from a different angle. Usually you have to go to your admins and tell them, hey, I have a bad reading performance, I need new indexes. And then the nightmare starts, because admin then have to determine what kind of an index is required. They have to test it, they have to put it in regression and so on. And once they're coming up with this index, you come back and say, oh no, I don't need it anymore. It was just for 2 or 3 days where I needed it. So it's an obsolete work. However, Exasol is doing an automated index management, which means only create an index on your search to be searched data if Exasol is telling to do so. In my entire career at Exasol, I've never encountered a single case where we needed to manually create indexes because the database is doing it, and it's doing it better than a human can do. Also, we are doing a smart or intelligent index management, which means indexes not required over a certain amount of time, usually a little bit more than a month, will be vanished again. So we are not an index graveyard. I just referred to, we can scale up also by use cases. And typically we don't know what your next use case is. And probably you have seen databases in the past were perfect for one use cases and could not drive your next use cases. We have an extensibility by containerized programming languages, which means if you need to extend the database in terms of functionality, you can do so either by an embedded script language called Lua, or by Java, Python, or R. And you can have many different such script language containers or tutorials for 3 reasons. First of all, you want to separate these language containers by organizational units, or you want to resolve package dependencies. And you can enable the database to things you don't know that this is coming to happen in the next several months. To emphasize this, I'm now coming up with a bold statement. In 2015, we were already able to execute large language models inside the database straight with the data without exporting the data to a different instance of a computing instance, letting an LLM work, and then pushing back the results. Most people now would say what he's telling about, and you're right, because LLM, as we know as of today, are around in the market since 21, 22. But what do I say with this? We now have the architecture already in place to extend our database functionality or capabilities to use cases we don't know that they're existing yet. So it's a perfect marriage. We are not coming into to you with just serving or driving 1 or 2 use cases. We want to be your lifetime partner. And this is really Exasol at a glance. Secondly, because when we're talking about data sovereignty, everything can be kept on-premise. And because the so-called MCP server, it's a software component which enables a large language model to interact with external agents, which could be a Slack channel, which could be a mailer, but also a database. And all components you see here can be kept on-premise within your own premise, with your own walls, protecting your data. Even if you're just giving metadata to an LLM, you're giving away your intellectual property, and we are going to mitigate this one. So what you can see here is a pretty simple architectural proposal where the end user on the left side with the clients is on-premise, probably just a simple web browser you're going to see in a moment. Then we have a BI tool, for example, as an end user tool. And this BI tool is then connected to 2 different components. The first one for authentication. You not only authenticate yourself against a Microsoft Active Directory or Open LDAP for your company, rights, you also authenticate yourself, or the tool is authenticating with a protocol called OAuth, letting the MCP server giving you the same authentication level you own on a database, for example. So,
Took me see
regardless of
the first slide.
you seeing still the first slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, better?
No.
Wait.
Still.
Let me, okay, this is strange. Let me share right now again. You seeing now the second slide?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, this is sometimes Apple and Zoom and so on, you know. So basically, what's happening with this second authentication method, which by the way is standard for distributed web application, is allowing a user only to get access to this kind of data, like he would go directly to the database and logging into the database, which is not the need here anymore. So the user is only seeing the data he's allowed to see still. And the MCP server is not becoming an open door where you can try to get all the data you're probably not allowed to see. Yeah. And secondly, or thirdly, the database itself on the right side, which can run on the cloud or as an app on your own premises or in a special tenant on your private cloud services. We can support every different scenario, even hybrid ones. And this is just the core of we are working with MCP servers, for example, in large language models on-premise. And to give you an impression how this looks like, I want to share my web browser. Can you just tell me, do you see my web browser right now?
Yes.
Yep.
So this is a client called OpenWebUI. It's just one of an open source web client you can use, which also allows to authenticate via OAuth and propagates this then to the MCP server. I have here right now two choices: going to log in by my email, just going directly to the OpenWebUI. If I would do this, and I'm just asking you to believe me, I would not be able to go to the MCP server because he would say, you're not authenticated. As a second option, I can go and click on this button, continue with the Exasol MCP server, which is bringing me now to a so-called OAuth identity provider. The identity provider is a component which is then creating tokens, giving it a so-called time to live information. Yeah. So the validity of the period, you can use it, and it's connected to your Microsoft Active Directory or LDAP, where you're really maintaining your users. In this case, I'm now logging in, and what's happening right now is he's now going to an open LDAP server and asks him, hey, this user, is this the right password? Yes, it is. This is, now I'm logged in because I have a token, and I would be able now to start for the MCP server, to work with the MCP server. You're seeing here, I want to do something on a retail database. However, I'm typing something which is now not being able to be answered. Show me the top 10 delayed flights in California, show as a table, include a rank in the first column. There's really nothing what a retail database schema could answer. However, if you don't do any precautious steps, what could happen is that you're forcing the LLM to give you any kind of an answer, just he wants to answer it. It starts hallucinating. We mitigate this by doing a so-called relevance check. And it's not a complex algorithm. We just ask the LLM itself, because it perfectly understands semantics. Hey, are we able to answer this query? And now he's going to the MCP server. He's doing a relevance check and everything else. And the relevance check says the provided content does not contain relevant information to answer your query about delayed flights in California. So he's clearly telling you you're rowing into the wrong direction, or you even entered the wrong train or the wrong boat. Now let's do the very same with another statement on a retail basis. I can go here and ask, show me the top 10 products for the area of Hessen with regards to revenue. So I'm selecting here even the metrics, and I'm telling you, show me the units sold. Oh, I have a typo here even, but this even would be able to be answered. And I want to have a rank as a first column. While the metrics of revenue and units sold are definitely stored in the database, rank is something he has to calculate. Yeah, because rank is really depending on the filter criteria, like here, the state of Hessen and so on. And I'm telling him, hey, I don't want to have any flowing text. I want to have it as a table. And at the end, I'm a little bit more a professional user. Show me the SQL statement so I can really check, at least on top of the surface, does it look right or not? Because here, this is not a flat table. We have several joins to do. So let's start.
If you have another typo, it's top N or not top 10. So
doesn't
maybe...
matter. Doesn't matter. The LLM is fault tolerant to a certain degree because of the semantics. This is really the good thing. So what he did here is a relevance check. After the relevance check, he's transforming the language into the SQL statement. Then he's even checking, is the SQL statement okay to be executed? We really enforce here only read-only statements, because sometimes in SQL and an LLM could do some harmful stuff. We stop this one here. And then we're going to render the result. And here it is. I have here my rank column, which is, by the way, a function, a SQL function of Exasol. So we really have to identify the function. What can I do? Here are the products, the unit sold, and the revenue, and sorted by the revenue. And at the end, I can even see this is the SQL statement. If you have a tool like Open Web UI, then we can even go further and doing some sort of guided analytics. For example, I can now just by a click do the same for me for the company or for the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. And now he's doing the very same. What happens right now is he's doing a similarity search, and he knows that he has done a similar question before. So he knows, oh, I only need to change North Rhine-Westphalia, which means also you can teach this MCP server with really complex queries. And this is only everything I would like to show, because this is the basis for then Carsten is doing in conjunction with the Datavault Builder. So Carsten, it's up to you right now, and I'm stopping sharing.
Dirk, thank you very much. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Soon, now, perhaps.
Yes, yeah.
Perfect, great. Yeah, before I will continue the demo with a longer showcase, actually, I would just want to give a context what is Datavault Builder, because we also look at the tool and use it so that you just have an idea of what it is for. So Datavault Builder is a business-driven data warehouse automation solution that integrates your data from different sources in a single point of truth and get it ready for AI, data analytics, and actually all other data use cases. So we have a very standardized and automated approach to reduce the implementation effort for the data warehouse implementation with only one goal. The goal is to deliver faster to your data consumers data insights that they can accelerate the business value by using data and just doing better decisions, actually. So we are supporting two processes, actually. One process is the data flow. So we're collecting the data with our connectors from all your data sources like ERP systems, databases, web applications, APIs, files, CSV, Excel files, or JSON files. We connect it and we absorb this data to one single point of truth. We validate it together. We associate it with your integrated data model that you have in your core, and we are able to design, or you are able as a user to design consumer-specific interfaces for different data users, data consumers. You can apply logic. You can publish it to business intelligence, reports, data marts, data analytics, to AI applications, to a RAG system for your internal knowledge management, for example, or to machine learning algorithm. Or if you have a data mesh environment, you can publish your data products. So, and actually the second process that we support is the development process of this data flow from the source to the target. So the development process starts always with the use case. What is the new use case business needs to, which is the question business needs to answer to better control their processes. And it starts with a data model to understand the data. And the second part is to understand the data of your sources, so data profiling. And the third part is then the code generation. And now I mean the code generation for the whole data pipeline, as it's shown in the process above. So we're creating all the tables, all the views, all the DDLs and structures on the database that is needed. But we're also creating all the loads, ETL loads, ELT loads, pipelines, call it how you want, to get the data from the source to the target. And we are supporting testing data quality. We have a module to compare different environments like dev, test, and production, and deploy from one environment to another directly or over a Git repository as you want. And in operations, you are able to schedule these jobs. The whole orchestration is done automatically, and also monitoring logging is included. So far, very short overview about Datavault Builder, and one slide here to remember that before I start, we have the second poll, which is now coming soon. Here is it. The question is, which AI models are you currently using in business? That's a very interesting question because we use some of them, which I show you here already. And we will also see today the on-prem open source solutions with open source models. So please answer the question to give us an overview. And I so far will continue and explain until we have the result what we are doing next. So in the live demonstration, we will first ask a large language model to model a data model. And then we will generate the physical data model with the Datavault MCP server on the database itself. We will then deploy another model, which is more deeply integrated with all the loads, everything implemented yet. And then we will ask with the MCP server from Exasol, as Dirk had shown it already, we ask this data directly with natural language on the access layer of your data warehouse. So we now got also the result of our questions. Okay. Also, most people use really OpenAI and ChatGPT. Yeah. Claude is there as well. And the second highest is Microsoft Azure. And 9% also use on-prem open source. Perhaps it's getting more after this webinar when we showed how it's possible, and other solutions as well. Thanks a lot for answering the question. And we now step into the demonstration case. So first, we want to ask a data modeling agent actually to get a data model. And we also will give a source model out of an open showcase to create a conceptual data model. And actually, the output will be two things: all core business concepts that are business objects, business entities like a customer and an order, and the relationships between them. And these two things are called in Datavault modeling hubs and links. And just to understand it better, what you see in Datavault Builder soon and what we're doing with a large language model, it makes sense to give us just 1 minute of explanation what Datavault methodology is. It is, in my opinion, could look, because you have a lot of options, a lot of objects created, it could look a little bit complex, but actually, in my opinion, it's the easiest way of data modeling, because you just need to understand that the data is splitted into their real functions. And the three functions are, there are core business concepts, as I said, customer, product, order, product category, real world objects stored in hubs. Then there are the relationships between these hubs, which are nothing else than, in a third normal form, it would be a foreign key relationship. But here it's a different separate table where the relationship is stored. So it's just the natural business relationship between these real world objects in links. And the third thing is the context, all attributes, all fields, all columns, all knowledge about one customer, for example, like the name, the email address, is saved in satellites. And that makes the model very extensible. And that has a big benefit, one or many benefits. One benefit, it's easy to integrate multiple sources to these hubs, actually. So you can easily integrate. You can start with one use case very small, and you can grow big without refactoring all the time your core model. So this is the problem if you would use a third normal form core model in the data warehouse, and you have new sources, cardinality changes, you have new business requirements. You always have these big refactoring efforts, and that slows the team down who does it. So with this flexible model, you can just add new use cases without destroying what you already got. The traceability and audibility comes for free, and it's very standardized, so it's easy to automate, and that's actually the thing we're doing. So let's get into gets practical, and we will use now here Open Web UI. As Dirk already showed, we have here different agents pre-configured. So we have the data modeling agent, we have the MCP server for Datavault Builder, and for Exasol, we have different models that we are using. I highlighted all the models that I tested before, so we have only the relevant one here at the moment. And we have a showcase where we took the Willibald webshop from the DWG, so a German Data Vault user group, which created this nice showcase for also testing of Data Vault and other systems. So there is a web shop of a company called Willibald, which sell plants and seeds. Actually, here's a description, and there's a data model as well. And we can go back and see the data model here also. So here's the data model, and there is also a nice file of the source. This one, and it includes like all these core business concepts, let's call it, like the customer, the Kunde, the residence where the customer lives, the club partnership, the category of the product itself. It also includes like the context information, and very important for our model, it contains the foreign key relationship. So it contains also the relationships that we need to create our model. So we just download this file, and we go to Open Web UI, and we put it as a context in our data modeling agent that it knows about our source system. And we want now this modeling agent to give us a data vault model. So I write, please give us a list of hubs and links for our data vault model based on the attached file. And now, based on the uploaded file, this agent starts to think. So let's tackle the data vault modeling task. It goes through all these core business concepts, and it also started here already to find the links between them. So that was easy. And went fast, 11 seconds, and we have a list of all hubs, of all business entities, business objects, and their links between. So we have from order to customer, we have a many-to-one relationship. That means, makes sense. A customer can have more than one order. The format it gives me here, I defined just in the system prompt of this agent. I just tell him, please give me a list of all the hubs. Please give me a list of all the links with the business cardinality. which is very important in the right direction to build up our model. So now we just copy that and go to Datavault Builder MCP server saying, please create the following hubs. And now it will create in Datavault Builder the hubs. We have here now an empty canvas. There's no model included at the moment. And we also have a new GUI where we see earlier if something happens, because it's updating here the list of hubs all few seconds. So now let's see what happens here. The hubs were requested, has been successfully created. So let's go there. Here we are. Here they are. We just show everything. The hubs are there. Here we have the list of hubs as well. Very nice. And we go back to our data model agent and say, okay, now we need the links between them as well. So let's go to the MCP server again and say, please create following links. And let's have a look how long it takes. So now it's went to this quencoder large language model, which is good for calling tools. That's how you call the functions in the MCP server. And the links has been successfully created as per your request. So this is actually then the JSON of the request. And we should just refresh here everything to get our data model. So now we have the data model created already in Datavault Builder. We can look at it and we see we have a product, and the order item to the order position does know which product is ordered, and the product has a product category. Okay. And we have the customers which have orders. The customers are in club partner and have a residence. And here is some shipment information. So from the first look, it looks very nice and correct. The good thing is this is not just a model now, but it is already implemented on the database. So here we are in a Datavault schema, and I just refresh it, and we can see, nice, all the hub tables are there, all the link tables are already there. So for the moment, we have the MCP server so far that we can support this modeling, but in development still is to develop all the loads, all the pipelines from the sources to the target, which can be done with Datavault Builder in the GUI, of course, now, but not with the MCP server yet. It will come soon. So what we need to do is now to actually deploy another model where the loads are implemented as well. And we go here, we have a direct Git integration. We just choose here the Git branch that we want to compare with the current solution. The current solution is our model here. And we see we have here some things that are updated. So there is a customer because we just created the hub customer. And it says, in the branch which you want to deploy, it's just written differently, but it has the same ID. So it can be an update. Some not yet needed things like the delivery could be deleted. And as you see, especially all the loads are generated if I just deploy it. So I select everything. I could also choose or select only one thing and all dependent objects. And now I'm running this deployment. So perhaps just to see where we are in our case, we used the Datavault Builder MCP server to create the model. Now we're deploying another model with the whole implementation to the database, and then we will load the data through all layers, and next step would be to query it. So far with the data, with the MCP server of Exasol. So far we can have a look, because the deployment takes a minute, what we have in Datavault Builder. So we have staging here. That means we can connect to different sources like files, like databases, like APIs, like gRPC servers for your own connectors. standard connectors for MS Dynamics, for Salesforce, and so on. Theobald connector for SAP data, Trino connector, for example, for Kafka topics. So far, we could connect everything our customer needed. You can look at the data and have a value distribution looking for unique keys for your model. And here we can clear this canvas and just now search, for example, for the product. And now we load it already in the deployment. It's almost done. We have now here the new model, which is implemented, and it looks a little bit more colorful. We can go click on everything to open the part of the model that we want to look at. And we could also save as bookmarks that we share with others if we want to have the same view. So, for example, this one. And we see here now, we still have the hubs, the blue squares, product category, and in between we have this link. So that is the part that was generated anyway. And we have this colorful bubbles around, which is just the satellites where all these attributes are saved from different systems here to be integrated. For example, the order position has the price and the amount. And we have the data lineage from the source to the target. We could also filter that. And more important now for our use case is we have these jobs here, and we just run the jobs to fill now our data model really with data, because we want directly want now to query the data with Exasol. So we need to get the data from the sources. All the green lines are loaded, and now we have data already here. And I just check if it's done. We can check this here in the deployment. The deployment was done, yeah, and the operations is done as well. So we should have data. And we go back to the web UI and query in natural language now to generate these, in the background, the SQLs to give us some answers about the data. So the data is about products, about their orders. And we just ask for the most successful products now with most revenue. So there's an order and order position and a product table that needs to be joined here to answer this question. And we get here the answer, and it's accessible in the access layer. Very nice. We can try another one. We can say, okay, what are our 10 best 10 customers with most bought products? So what is the amount of the most products from the best customers? And we say, please show also the SQL, because if we have the SQL as Dirk showed, we can also always look at the database if it's correct. Yeah. So it tells us there's Elke Obrecht with 47 products. Okay. That is interesting. Because I accepted a little bit different number here. Perhaps I was too fast and it was not loaded everything because it's lower. The name is correct. That is good to know. Let me just make sure that everything was running completely. This is running. And we check also the see, it's you always see it's a live demo. So I was myself confused. So I just copied now the SQL here to the database, and I see there's Elke Olbricht. Yeah, that is correct. Oh, and it's right. So the number is right from the LLM. Just in my load, I just remembered another number, and so I was confused. But you see, we can check if the SQL is correct. We have the amount of the sum of amount from the order position. Everything looks correct, so it shows really what is there on the database. So blame on me. Why is it differently than it was before? But that is because of the data. So yeah, that is actually the part that I wanted to show, and perhaps also giving an introduction to short summary of what we have learned on the way, why we tested this showcase, and yeah, we can say, as Dirk said, very important to have in the MCP server really a relevance check. Otherwise, the model just hallucinates and you don't know if it's correct. So you not always can go directly to the database and like me and look if the result is the same. Yeah, also good to know the Exasol MCP server can save this SQL queries, optimize them. So if you have the same answers more often or complex answers, you can really save it in the background, and the users don't need to know about it. So let's go to lessons learned. And yeah, for everybody who has a little bit experience now with large language models, it doesn't sound too new, but I felt it very often while we together implemented this showcase. And actually it's like that. GPU power, the model size, and the context window matters a lot. Yeah. If you have a limited GPU power with a limited video RAM, you can only have a limit model size with limit parameters and weights. And if you have a limit sized model, you have somehow a limit context window. So that is not too new, but it is like that. But the good news is it's always just a trade-off between how much do you invest for your GPU? Do you have a small one, which is cheap, but the quality is limited, or have you just a bigger one, bigger power behind it? It's more expensive. You'd have better quality, of course. Of course, it depends also how many users do you have. And the good news is it's possible on-prem and on the cloud. Yeah, both is possible, and that will just to show it here in a comparison. We now used in the gray box, you can read it. We have used the GeForce graphical card with 24 GB of RAM. So not too big. Yeah, it's good for gaming, but not for the biggest models. And we used for the modeling agent, the Qwen3 quantified model with 14 billion parameters. And for the MCP server tooling, we used the Qwen3 coder because it is better for the function calling. And you see now in the diagram here, the Qwen Coder 3 with 30B, which we used for our MCP servers here in the background. You see it's quite small. Yeah, it's less than 20 gigabytes big. So it fits well in the RAM of our GPU card. But in comparison, we have here the red ones are the proprietary, which a lot of you use, for example, ChatGPT. We found out many of the participants of the webinar are using that are just estimated sizes. So we really don't really know how big they are because they are not open source, but they are estimations. And you see they are bigger, but you can also see the blue ones. There are Qwen3 Max. There is now out since a month, I think, Qwen 3.5, which is much more detailed. I tested it. Actually, for our use case, sometimes it was too detailed and a little bit slower. So I took for the showcase here still the Qwen 3. But you see, there are also a lot of open source models available which are bigger. So if you have on-prem the right hardware, you can do much more than that I showed. Yeah, much more complicated tasks as well. So we are not dependent on the big proprietary ones if we really need data sovereignty. Yeah, so that's it so far from my side. So let's have a look if we have questions.
So yeah,
Don't hesitate.
thank you.
Write some questions.
So thank you, Carsten. Thank you, Dirk. So we only have 3 minutes left, but maybe I can answer one question here. So the question was, we are already using Microsoft Azure. Doesn't hosting and data in their European data centers give us the same sovereignty guarantees as a European provider like Stackit? Yeah, it not really depends. So the question is, so we have the US Cloud Act, and this Cloud Act says that data can be transferred from outside the US to the US without notifying you. So there is no 100% clearance if your data isn't used abroad. And I just discussed it yesterday with a lawyer who is specialized on these things, and he says, okay, no, you're not 100% sure. So if you have really sensitive data and you want to be 100% sure, I wouldn't put my data there. So I would go for a European provider that stores it in Europe under EU law. So I'm not sure if there's another question. Let's see. There's one about the authorization at the MCP level. I don't know, Dirk or Carsten, can you answer this?
I can this one. It's the same as you would log in directly into the database. So the MCP server, and this is part of the authentication against the LDAP server with this OAuth identity provider, is absolutely the same as you would log in directly into the database. So regardless if you're using an MCP server, a BI tool, or a database admin tool like a DB Visualizer or dbeaver, you would always see the same data. You only get to see what you're allowed for. So it honors the total user role concept.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question if we can provide a demo sandbox. And I would say the answer is yes. So we could get something which we could show you, and that wouldn't be a problem. So just contact us. And yeah, so I think we will close our webinar now because time is over. So if there are additional questions, if there are other ideas you want to get in contact with us, please do so. So you have the contact information. And for now, thanks for watching. Thanks that so many people were interested in this topic. And yeah, see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.